We are Caleb Lasky,
And Kyle Trujano.
and in this episode, we sit down with Mr. Borghoff, Elise Slowinske, and Jess Brandvold to discuss the Scholastic Bowl and the Scholastic Bowl All-Star Game. In this episode, we focus on Mr. Borghoff's career, competition, and the inside jokes of Scholastic Bowl. Thanks for joining, and we hope you enjoy. Hello, and welcome to the Howl, where the Huskies sit down and discuss what's happening inside and outside the Hersey walls. I'm Caleb Lasky, and this is my co-host,
Kyle Trujano.
Today, we'll be talking about the Scholastic Bowl and the Scholastic Bowl All-Star Game with our special guests, Mr. Borghoff, Elise, Jess, and Shannon, who was an All-Star but couldn't make it. First of all, would you guys please tell us what the Scholastic Bowl is and what it's all about? What you guys do during it?
I guess really simply, I kind of like to describe it as Jeopardy, but on teams. Going a little bit deeper into that, you have 5 players on a team. You have kind of like a buzzer system, so when the question is read and you know the answer, you can buzz in immediately. And there are some categories to the questions like literature, fine arts, math and science, history, miscellaneous, current events, and philosophy. I think those are the main ones. Each person on the team typically takes a specialty. For instance, Elise is...
Yeah, like literature, mythology.
Yeah, and then I'm fine arts, philosophy, and literature. So it's really good to have like a good balance of teammates, kind of ranging that entire spectrum of like topics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's your favorite and least favorite topics then?
Oh, for sure, least favorite has to be science.
Yeah.
I can't even the stuff that you learn in physics here or like chemistry here doesn't even begin to reach the level of science that you need to learn for Scholastic Bowl.
Yeah. Science for me too.
Yeah, my favorite would have to be literature and fine arts, definitely.
Yeah, I think the science stuff, you would have to be learning it on your own outside of school. I don't know how these people know it. And the math is random stuff that I've never heard of, at least. It's crazy.
It's intimidating, I think, because the science questions that they're talking about, it could be anything from astronomy to biology to geology, any kind of earth science. It's intimidating. And, we have, you can be taking AP physics and you can be taking AP environmental science and all these great classes here at Hersey, but that covers just a portion of what the Scholastic Bowl questions can throw at you. You can never know everything. It's hard.
So would you guys study for this if you're not learning everything like the classroom?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say our most valuable resource is protobowl.com. It was made, I think, by a fellow Scholastic Bowl player. I'm not sure from where, but it's basically this website that recycles old test banks and question banks, and it just kind of feeds it back to you, and then as soon as you know the answer, you can buzz in and type the answer in. So it's really useful because you can sort it between the different categories that you want to study. So often I just go to literature, study literature for a couple hours, then call it quits.
Yeah, it's great for memorizing stuff because a lot of Scholastic Bowl is just knowing keywords. So if you know a key element of a story or an author's life, you can know what the answer is immediately. So if you do stuff on Proto Bowl enough, maybe history or literature, you'll know the keywords and you'll be able to get the answers way easier.
You don't have to read all the books.
Yeah.
And, know all the authors to do well in a literature category if you can memorize those lists of characters and plots and authors and everything else. So I think, to your credit, both of you two, you've made huge progress just from last year, right? From
Definitely.
studying literature lists. And that was a big, big advantage for Hersey in competing against other MSL schools. I always thought we had kind of a leg up in terms of literature because of the studying that they did. It's not that they read every single book, but they were familiar with the stories and the characters, the authors of those books.
And I also want to say I don't think that class is insignificant because just last meet we had a couple questions on Otto von Bismarck and Realpolitik that we learned in AP Euro the other day.
Yeah, go Euro.
So who would you recommend to be in Scholastic Bowl?
Anybody. If you want to, if anyone's interested in learning new things or if they know a lot about a certain subject, doesn't have to be all the subjects. If you know a lot about science and you're already in Science Olympiad, if you know a lot about literature just because you read a lot or you want to learn more about literature, just anyone who wants to be there. Because if you want to be there, you'll want to learn more and you'll want to get better. And then that's what makes a good team, I think.
What advice would you give to that person joining the team to be most successful?
Study for sure, but also just have a good time. I think some people join and they don't really know why they want to be there, but it's not super serious. You can just have fun and be at practice and learn things. It's fun to compete.
Yeah, definitely, like, I see it a lot with, like, our junior varsity team. Like, don't get intimidated. You know, nobody's going to, like, it's a no-cut team, so, like, we're not going to kick you out if you, like, miss a question. All that can really happen in Scholastic Bowl is, like, you get better and better, and you win some games.
Mm-hmm.
So how have you grown from JV to varsity? Did you guys, like take a step up by, like, studying a little harder or just, like, focusing a little more on, like, certain questions?
Yeah, both of us joined last year, junior year, and we were on the JV team at first, but there were a lot of people on the JV team, not a lot on the varsity team, so it just kind of came down to who was willing to study more and work a little bit harder, and that ended up being us.
Knowing that you guys are the All-Stars, have you guys kind of taken like a leadership role on the Scholastic Bowl team?
Yeah, we're both varsity captains, so I think that kind of precluded the All-Star match a little bit. Like, in the beginning, even before the season started, I feel like we did a lot of leadership stuff. Like, we went to a lot of, like, classes, like freshman and sophomore classes, and we recruited there. Elise has put together some really great study lists. Just in general, kind of.
You've done well with social media too, I think, which
Yeah.
is help promote the program around the building.
Yeah, we have a Scholastic Bowl Instagram page, JHHS Sco Bowl on Instagram.
It is not. We're not affiliated with
not
JHHS.
affiliated.
Yeah, we can't
You
get
always
in
gotta
trouble for
put
that.
that.
That's right, yeah. But that's great for anyone who's interested should definitely check that out because we have records of all the matches we've been to, some little jokes or some things that happened. So
I feel like it shows
Yeah.
like the true character of Scholastic
Yeah.
Bowl. It's not just academic. Like, if you have friends in there, you're gonna have like a great time.
or you'll make friends if you don't.
I don't want to sound cheesy, but like it's always fun winning. Like I like
Yeah.
winning. But really, I think like the most value I get out of it is when we're not doing so well, and there's like this push to get to the end and to answer as many questions as possible. It just kind of puts a little more pressure on you. There are definitely times where it's like the pressure is a little bit too much, like especially towards the end if we're like tied.
You don't like those times when it's close?
No, I don't.
Sitting on the sideline, I think that's the best. I love those matches.
Yeah, it's fun to watch, but then like Mr. Borghoff, you call a timeout and you kind of try to rally the troops. I mean, it usually works. But,
Inspiring messages for the team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
sure.
it is fun from the sideline, but I think it's not as fun if you're playing because it's usually I would be the captain if I'm in, or Jess would be the captain if she's in, and that means on questions where we're allowed to discuss, 4 other teammates are yelling their ideas at you, and you have to pick the best one. And if you don't pick the best one, then you kind of get yelled at a little bit, which is stressful because then you don't know if you're picking the right answer, and there's always a time limit. So that's.
It's actually also stressful if you're on the sidelines because like if you know the answer
if you know it,
and they don't, that's like the worst feeling.
Mr. Barr, if you said something that caught me, you said those inspiring messages. What were some of them?
No, that was I was kidding, of course. My inspiring messages for Scholastic Bowl are about the equivalent of "Go Team." There's not the strategy involved like there is with football or something like that, or any adjustments that necessarily have to be made other than just trying to keep confidence high. I think there is a strange momentum in Scholastic Bowl. I can't figure it out, but when a team gets on a roll, I think that builds confidence, and confidence, leads the players to buzz in a little more readily, a little more confidently, a little more, accurately. And if you sort of get in a funk, then you're more reluctant to buzz in, you're more reluctant to guess, you're more reluctant to get points for the team. So any timeout to try to change momentum, that's about the extent of my strategy and my inspiring message, really. It's just trying to change momentum.
So it's your last year, right?
It is, yeah.
So reflecting on your career, what sort of enjoyment has Scholastic Bowl given you?
I think, well, I've said it. I think I mean this. I think it's the greatest activity at Hersey. I love coaching Scholastic Bowl. It's always fun for me. It's inspiring to me to see how smart these students are. It's humbling for me as a teacher to be around them multiple times a week. It keeps me in my place. You know, anytime I think I start knowing something about history and I'm feeling pretty cool and feeling good about myself, you play a couple of rounds of Scholastic Bowl and you realize how much more there is to learn. You hang out with these players who know so much about literature and philosophy and everything else, right? And you realize it just keeps me in my place. I think it's a great activity. I love the competition. I love the sportsmanship of Scholastic Bowl. I love that it's competitive, but it's not demoralizing. You know, I think if we can't beat BG this year, we couldn't get past them at all this year. They're an incredible team. But to me, I don't know if you guys would agree, but if you lose to BG, it's not so dejecting that it ruins your night or your weekend or something else. You kind of just admire how good they are. So there's a lot of positives, I think, that come out of Scholastic Bowl, and I don't see, you know, the real emotional, devastation that can come, you know, from losing in other sports or activities.
Yeah, there's a different kind of like etiquette and sportsmanship. It's really interesting because I don't see it anywhere else.
Right.
Like the way we talk to other teams, everyone wants to be there and we all want to have fun. It's not like we're out to get each other.
What do you think? Is it like that
Most
in
of
other
the time.
sports and activities, guys?
Oh,
What do you-
definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, it's, I don't know, it's fun because it is competitive and you always want to win, but it's also kind of like a club as well. Less, more like a club than a competitive IHSA activity, where you can kind of root for each other and you can really kind of admire how good other teams and other players can be or how good they are at certain categories. You can be competitive in one category and be better in another category, and you can concede another category. It's just, they're pretty good. Wow.
Yeah, so I play baseball, and if you like strike out a kid, you scream out from the side and
yeah.
Right.
walk off.
There is an incredible, Scholastic Bowl is an incredible high or buzz that you get when you get something right or when you can beat somebody in their best category. I love practicing with these players because if I can get a question right, I feel smart. It's incredibly affirming. You feel great. So there is that. But we're not fist pumping and things like that. I think it may not be the extent that you see in other sports and activities. But there's an internal satisfaction for sure.
Kind of funny question. Are some of these kids smarter than you?
Oh yeah. No, that's not. No, I concede that absolutely. Yes, they are.
Would either of these two people in the room be smarter than you?
Absolutely.
No
100%
comment.
they are. I think I might have an edge on them in maybe some European history or maybe some U.S. history, but it helps that I've been teaching that for 33 years. I hope I have an edge there. In terms of everything else, they're better. They're way better in so many more categories.
No, I will say, Mr. Borghoff always gets the Our Town questions. I can never remember who wrote Our Town. That's one of my personal failings. Mr. Borghoff's better than me in that sense.
And like end of the year Euro or U.S. history
Oh my
stuff
God.
that we didn't get to or we
Or
haven't
like,
learned yet. Makes
no,
me so
okay.
mad.
I do have some beef with you, Mr. Borghoff, because
here it
you always
comes.
say that we're going to get to European art and music, and then we never get to it. And then there's always European art and music questions that we never get to.
Yeah.
Shots
I failed.
fired.
I
Yeah.
failed. What can I say? I failed.
Reflecting on your career, Mr. Borghoff, how has Scholastic Bowl impacted your teaching ways?
Oh, gosh.
Well, I think I can
Yeah.
answer this
Good.
one.
Please help me.
In the middle of class, he's like, this is actually a really good one for the Scholastic Bowlers. Or he says, like, oh, remember this, so I make sure to take note. But other than that-
I have to confess, sometimes, in Euro, if something comes up, it may not be on our test or it may not be emphasized by the college board, but I'll want to talk about it anyway because I know that it may come up in Scholastic Bowl. So I try to squeeze in as much as I can.
We're going to do a little switch of the conversation. We're going to start talking about the All-Star game. So, Mr. Borghoff, how did you select your All-Stars? What made Elise, Jess, and Shannon stick out from?
Wow, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier about how the leadership that they've taken really since day one, the effort they've done to help build the program and to recruit people into the program, to promote the program. To me, that sort of leadership is invaluable, and I've grown really to depend on it a lot this year. But beyond that, I thought it was a pretty easy choice, too, because they simply answered the most questions of anybody on the team this year. I mean, you can go through our score sheets, and, they were head and shoulders above other players on the team just in terms of the quantity of points that they scored this year. So it was sort of, an intuitive feeling that I had that they deserved it, and I think the score sheets also sort of confirm that intuition.
How they, changed from their freshman to senior year?
Yeah. Well, I think just from last year, wouldn't you guys agree that you're way better this year than you were last year?
Leagues better.
Right.
Even though last year me and Elise kind of played on varsity, we didn't get much playing time. But even then, when I would play, I'd just be so scared to buzz in and answer a question that I'd wait for the last second or miss it. But now I definitely think I'm more confident in buzzing into a question, even if I get it wrong, which
Yeah, and I think last year it was so intimidating because we were juniors. It was our first year on the team. I didn't even know it existed freshman and sophomore year. And all the seniors on the varsity team, they were so good. And I could never even buzz in because they would know everything before I would. So it was just kind of discouraging. But this year,
now we're the seniors.
Yeah, now we're those seniors. Yeah. So it's kind of encouraging because now we're kind of expected to know it. So
are you bullying juniors and?
Oh, for sure. No, Elise is
Ernest.
Elise ruthlessly bullies Ernest.
I do not.
Yeah, shout out Ernest Dubowski.
He's featured on the Instagram every single time.
Yeah, I don't want to say that.
All right, so
his good spirit.
Yeah.
His good spirit.
Back to the All-Star game. How did you guys feel during the All-Star game? Was it more nervous or was it more exciting for you guys?
I think it was more exciting because there weren't really any stakes because we're not competing school versus school. There's no Hersey stake in it. It's just getting together with people who are interested in the same thing as you to have a little friendly contest,
It's an exhibition match.
Yeah,
It'd be like the Pro Bowl in football or something. I mean, you want to win. It's fun to compete, but there's, like Elise was saying, the stakes are low. It's okay.
Sorry.
Was the same competitiveness from a real kind of match between this?
I feel it's even more competitive. I'd say it's more competitive because you have your top two scorers from each team, but top scorer in the game at a time. And, you really know, who you want to target. Our target was, beating Barrington. We need to watch out for Barrington. So I feel that just makes it even more competitive because, you know who you're up against. You've gone the entire year kind of seeing these people and competing against them. So I feel you know them a little bit more personally.
Yeah, I think individual players were more competitive. You would kind of have a feeling I have to get more points than that person, or I need to buzz in before that person does, and I could see that in other people too. But as a team as a whole, it wasn't East beating West. It was more just I want to not do very bad.
You want to represent,
yeah.
Right?
How did you guys feel knowing that you were going against two of the top 5 players in the nation? You said beating Barrington would have been your feel good. How'd you feel coming into the match?
Well, there was obviously no chance that we'd beat Barrington. I think Barrington is second nationally.
I don't know. They're in the top 5.
Second
for
or
sure.
third, I think. So there's definitely no way that was happening.
You never know.
But still, I mean, you guys try to imagine, going against a top team in the nation in football or baseball in the nation. I mean, if you strike out somebody on the top team in the nation in baseball, that's going to feel pretty good. Even
I'm
one
strung
strikeout,
off the mound.
right? What's that?
I'm strung off the mound if I strike.
Right, exactly. And, same, on the line or something, if you're stopping one of the best football teams in the nation, that's going to feel good. And I think, the goal, beating these guys is not terribly realistic, even in, but the idea of even the satisfaction you can get in trying to beat them on any one particular question or one category or something like that, or even a couple of questions, that can make your night.
Yeah, just being there, participating is it's kind of fun, and it's fun to watch even if you're losing.
Badly.
It's fun to watch and
Losing badly.
So you said the last time Hersey hosted was 10 years ago.
Yeah, ish.
Has the All-Star game changed over the years, as you know, or?
No. I mean, it's always been the top two All-Stars from each team in the conference. So there's 24 players there that rotate in and get equal amounts of playing time. That's all been pretty consistent. It's always pretty consistent that Barrington has, impressive players, and I think it's always consistent that Hersey has impressive players, and I think that always makes for a pretty good matchup.
You said that Barrington always has good players.
Yeah.
Is there like scouting and redshirting going on there?
No, but I mean they deserve a lot of credit. I mean the coach over there, he I know that their middle school programs feature Scholastic Bowl and do a great job with Scholastic Bowl. So the kids come in freshman year at Barrington already pretty practiced up and studied up for Scholastic Bowl. And the coach over there, he does an amazing job, encouraging students, his players, to study and to prepare. And they're just always good. And they compete, very, in very competitive tournaments in, across the region. Something, is very ambitious, and they're very good. It shows. The results show. He deserves a lot of credit.
I have a question for the All-Stars. What legacy do you want to leave behind at Hersey High School? Like, do you want, how you thought the seniors were? Do you want, the underclassmen, how, these people were one of the best to ever do it?
I don't want to leave a personal legacy. I just want more people to know about it because I think it's really, really fun. I've been able to apply a lot of the knowledge from my classes to Scholastic Bowl and then Scholastic Bowl back to my classes. So I think it's just a great program to be in. But also, I don't want underclassmen to be intimidated to join or anything, especially girls. I think that's a big thing. But now our JV team is mostly girls. I think it's great to have more of a gender balance because I didn't see that last year.
Yeah, I totally agree. The intimidation part, just recruitment in general, I think we did a lot to recruit, I think, this year. There wasn't a ton of recruitment last year. I just really hope that even after Borghoff's gone, I hope that we'll be able to have this robust kind of really solid Scholastic Bowl team, in years to come. Mm-hmm. And I totally agree with Elise on the gender balance part. When we play against more teams, we were recently in the Loyola Ultima, I think, which we played 8 or 9 matches against different teams. You really see a kind of a gender disparity there. Our starting lineup, I think, is typically 3 or 4 girls and then 1 or 2 boys. You don't really see that. It's usually the other way around, or no girls, on the team in general. So, yeah, I hope we kind of pave the way for some people to join, to feel more comfortable joining.
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely true, and I think it's a remarkable thing about Elise and Jess's leadership this year. And I think it's really, you guys really broke through this year in terms of getting girls to participate in Scholastic Bowl, and it's been to a huge benefit of our team and program. For whatever reason, and coaches have talked about this in postseason meetings and that, for whatever reason, Scholastic Bowl in the past has drawn boys. And we couldn't figure it out. We didn't want that to be the case, but it was always the case.
Well, that's what
this year is different, and it's great. I think it's a great trend that girls are now being much more fairly represented in the activity.
That's what this podcast is all about, is to, I don't want to say raise awareness, but get the Scholastic Bowl name out in Hersey and have people talking about it if they're watching this podcast.
Yeah, I think that's great, especially because, I would have joined freshman year if I knew that it was a thing, but I don't remember hearing about it on the announcements or anything. We still don't get announcements about it, but we have an Instagram, and we were sure to tell underclassmen about it this year. So I just hope that continues.
So, Mr. Borghoff, it's your last year. So, who's going to take over Scholastic Bowl now? Since you're
I don't know. That's going to be a good question for Mr. Kielbasa. He's going to have to hire the position, and we'll see who applies. It'll be exciting. I'm not exactly sure. I know that our JV coach is Mr. Paith this year, and he's done a great job with the JV team. So I hope he stays with the program in some capacity, whether that's as varsity coach or if he stays on the JV level. I don't know. I would say that for any Hersey teacher, I'd totally recommend being a Scholastic Bowl coach because you get to work with great students and compete in a fun activity.
As we're coming to the end of this podcast, All-Stars, what has been the most fun moment of the year?
Ooh.
What have you really enjoyed?
I think just in general, I feel like going to meets, playing against other schools, especially schools that we've played a lot, that's always really fun. Like I have, throughout the year, you kind of get to know these people a little bit better. For instance, I have some friends on Wheeling, so it's always fun when they show up because Wheeling has a bit every time.
I love Wheeling.
We love Wheeling. One time they showed up with sock puppets. So when they buzzed in, they'd make the sock puppets talk. It was kind of stupid, but it was also made the game really fun. So I think moments like that. Also, BG and Hersey have a running joke for some reason about the garlic burger at Gargus Bargus Burger. I'm not quite sure what that is, but I mean, we always just have a really great time with BG even when we don't win.
Yeah, same for me. I don't think there was a specific day because all the meets and practices are structured the same way, but just, going to meets, being on the bus with all the friends that I've met in Scholastic Bowl. I just like being with the people on the team. I think that's the best part.
Mr. Barr, if you were laughing at, what is it?
Gargus Bargus Burger?
I don't know. It's kind of I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I don't get it.
I don't know
I
what
laugh
it is.
at it too. I just think they're funny when they go through that little
The little song
the
and
little
dance.
inside joke there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was more of a thing last year. I think that I don't know. I hope that Gargus Bargus outlasts us. That's another legacy that I want to leave.
Yeah.
It's hard. I know it's not making any sense to the listeners out there, but it just shows that Scholastic Bowl can be a lot of fun and fun shared between two competing teams.
Mm-hmm.